Welcome back to the Untrained Outdoorsman podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jake Fleischman. This podcast is brought to you by Hasio Gear Camouflage, Hunt Arsenal Saddle Hunting Equipment, Catalyst Archery Stabilizers, and lastly, but surely not least, Hunter's Blend Coffee. We appreciate everybody's support, and if you wouldn't mind, head over to Apple and Spotify and leave a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe and like. Hope you enjoy today's episode. So I want to transition. We're done with mechanical talk. But we're going to go back to some taking the angle of instructing someone who's newer to this. So like the first question we'll down the line from there. But like, let's say I have some notes here for like someone who's brand new to, saying they're coming from mechanicals. They're fresh onto the fixed game, to the, adult arrow game, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Would you jump them right to a certain type of broadhead like you did, right to a certain setup? Or like, what's the transitional first stepping stone? Is it a fixed 3-blade with a good blade angle first? Or is it right to a 2-blade of some sort with bleeder blades? Like, what is your first progression into, let's say they got their arrow flight down?
Yeah, I was going to say that. So we talked beforehand.
Yep.
So good job. You cut me off on that. Arrow's got to fly. We already went through all that with the bear shafts.
Arrows are flying. We're onto the broadhead itself.
Okay. I would go to something very similar to like the Magnus Stinger. So I'd go to a low angle of attack, 4-blade, but it has back set bleeders. That's key. You do not want the bleeder blades up here because you'll get angle crap happening to you. So you got 4 blades, but they're way back. And this is no knock on Magnus. Those blades aren't super thick, the bleeder blades. If they snap off, guess what's going to happen? That main blade's going to keep going. Fred Bear actually advocated for that. On the original Bear razor heads, they used super high tensile steel on the bleeders. He wanted them to break. Like he said, I'm going to use really brittle steel. If it doesn't hit anything hard, fine. I got 4 blades. If it hits something hard, they'll snap off and the main blade will keep going.
Those on purpose to where
on purpose.
It wouldn't stop it. As soon as it got to a certain breaking strength,
right.
It would just give out. I got you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And you actually want stuff to break rather than bend. If it bends, we go back to the redirect. Arrow shaft has mass, broadhead's going one way, velocity, the mass of the shaft's going another. So if the tip bends, you do not want that to occur. You would prefer it to break. The bleed blades off and just keep going. Weird as that sounds, when you think about it, it gets logical, right? And then if I was going to, for the highest penetration broadhead, that one's super high penetration. I would get the Magnus single bevel or a single bevel because of the rotational force. They're super efficient at impact. They're already single bevel broadheads because the blades are offset. When they hit the meat, they rotate. And we're not talking about a hole saw here. We're talking about 1/2, 3/4 of a rotation through a pig, which is 14 inches skin to skin, a big one. It's not a blender, but in the air, they're also pushing against the atmosphere and rotating. They're working with the fleshings. Like they're flying because they're cutting into the atmosphere. So they're already going, okay, fleshings, you want to go right? We're going right. And they're a little spun up when they hit the meat. Now, don't get too lost on that because fletchings are 1 to 3 degrees. Don't go over 3 degrees. I tried it. I went up to 15. It gets wild. Super helical is not your friend. So you got a moderate amount of rotation in the back, and then the bevel's like 30 degrees. So yeah, it's gonna it's gonna bite into the flesh and start spinning faster, but it's already going the direction it wants to go. So you're helping it. And not to mention in the air, it is cutting into the atmosphere. Those blades are like fletchings up front. Like They're actually rotating because they're biting into the atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere has mass. You just don't know it. Fish don't know they're underwater. C.S. Lewis said that. So they're not aware that there's water pressure on them because they've always had water pressure on them. We don't know there's 14.7 psi pushing on us. We think we walk around in a vacuum. So it's already spinning, hits and keeps spinning. I don't think it accelerates the rotation at impact. The blades do that. I don't think you get more rotation because the fleshing spun it up, but it can hurt. Every other broadhead on the planet stops rotating at impact. Bar none. And that's a little bit less energy to go forward. Is that a 0.1% or 20%? I don't even know how to do that. We're going to try to do, we're trying to figure it out. And we think what we got to do, we can get a lab radar and we can get the absolute velocity at 20 yards. We can pick it up on the lab radar and know that it launched at 280, it hit it to 65, whatever. We think we have to put a chronograph behind the pig because the lab radar shoots that way. You can't catch it going sideways. So like you put up a pig, you put a chronograph behind it, and you shoot through the pig, and you can tell how much it decelerated. That's going to be kind of fun. I'm actually thinking about doing either maybe some of the like y'all guys who are I've done a podcast with or a subscriber thing to have them come down. And we'll probably just go around with my silenced ARs and wail on them, and then get some test animals and try to figure out how much deceleration there is on the pass through. That'd be cool to know. That'd be super cool.
Hey, we're two guys. We'd love to come down and help you with anything you got going on. So
running around in the dark with an AR with a suppressor on it and blasting them is really a good time.
It's an easy sell.
Now, could you get the same kind of results even with like through ballistics gel? Would you be able to see if you did like an apples to apples, same weight, relatively the same head, one with a single bevel and one with a double bevel? Would you be able to check penetration?
I don't know because gel is its own crazy animal. Have you ever had a gel block in your hands? So they're super heavy. They're super dense. They're very consistent, which people think is an attribute, and it is not because animals are not. Animals are basically armor, water, armor. The mass of the internal organs is basically like water. Doesn't react like water resistance-wise, but that's my easiest way is you got a piece of armor, you're going through basically nothing, and then armor. So the ballistic gel is designed to stop things. So I don't know if you would get an accurate deceleration because I can shoot a mechanical into a gel block and it makes a humongous hole, and that is in its favor. So the shaft doesn't drag. It makes a big channel and the shaft doesn't get smushed as much. And then I can shoot the single bevel against it and it'll stop faster. You see these videos all over the internet. That single bevel's not worth a crap. Look in gel. Well, that's because it made a little slit and the shaft was just smushed in there, right? Everybody thinks, oh, you're making excuses. No, it's a very consistent, very dense substrate designed to stop things. That's its only goal. You want to catch a bullet and look at it. So they're not going to make it easy to penetrate.
So,
and not to mention, it moves around a lot.
So having said that, have you seen differences as far as penetration, double bevel versus single? Like the same head, just in different configurations?
Only when you hit hard things. Only when you hit hard things. And that's when that's when the single bevel really shines. The longest crack we've made in a pig scapula is 7.5 inches. It basically broke the whole scapula, top to bottom. It was in 2 pieces on a pig shot, not just the scapula. So for clarification, when you see the tests with a deboned shoulder blade, every broadhead owner is going to perform beautifully on those. And it is a fake test. It is a misleading test, and most of the people doing it don't realize what they've done. Animals have skin. You would have white-tailed deer 4 inches, maybe 3.5 of meat on top. Let's say you just hit the flat, like the penetration, the parts you can penetrate. Right behind that is the rib cage. Right behind that could be the spine. So when you only have one thing you shoot through, it's not representing what you're shooting. And I don't think most of the people who shoot through, like they buy a beef shoulder, I don't think they understand why the test isn't good. I really don't think they do. I think they go, wow, look at it go through the bone. That's awesome. Yeah. Except in a live animal, it's skin, meat, which is resistant, shoulder blade flat, not hard to penetrate, rib cage, which that means you could hit this flat and go right into a rib, and you might clip the spine from a tree stand. It's not impractical. So it's a catcher's mitt of stuff. And so it misleads people, and I honestly don't think most people know. I don't think they're trying to do it.
Like a static median that you're shooting into that's never changing seems good because it's not changing. It's not changing for every head, but like you're saying, having that combination of all those things together.
I mean, it's the mechanical go flying through that flat when it's just that piece. No problem. You see it all the time, right? But that's not skin, meat, flat, rib cage, possibly spine, then lethal. Remember, it hadn't gotten lethal until it gets past the ribs. It's just penetrated 6 inches. And so when you start to think, the only thing that matters is that the broadhead reaches the other thorax. I want them in the dirt. The maximum amount of damage a broadhead can do is to exit. Let's just say it just exits. It can't cut anymore, right? I mean, that's it. And you want 2 holes in them. That's a whole physiology discussion. But that layered thing is tough. That meat, shoulder blade, spine, rib cage. There's a lot there. Especially the elevated shot's the toughest one. The ribs are the thickest up high. That's a physiologic fact. So you're shooting into, most people are elevated 12, 20 feet. You're shooting down, scapulas go, if they move, the scapula's getting in the way, unless you gut shoot them. And then the thickest part of the spine, the widest part, they actually taper like this and then they get flatter and wider up on the top. It's not triple or anything, but it's more, right? It's just worse.
Yeah.
So
you kind of already answered what I was going to bring up next, but if you were to choose like penetration and 2 holes, regardless of the size of the hole every time, or let's just say 1 hole, but a ton of damage, let's say a single bevel versus a double bevel, one with serrations, tend to give maybe a little bit more damage inside. Like, what are you choosing 2 holes and penetration over
always
overall damage every time and having 2 holes?
And I'll justify my position is that especially for what y'all do. When I first met the hunting public and started helping them with their arrow setups, I was like, you guys you get whatever angle you get, or you just choose not to shoot. Y'all don't even get to trim trees and stuff. You just go bailing off in the woods and climb a tree and just realize you can only shoot right there and right there. I don't do that. We wait till they walk around the feeder the 14th time and shoot them. Like, it's a totally different shooting position, like practically speaking. So here's the scenario. You're out there swinging at a tree. You're not cold or anything. It's fine. Here comes a doe, rut's on. She's coming along. Here comes your deer. You start grunting at him to try to get him to stop, and he stops quartering two. If you are disciplined and you know you got a crappy arrow system and you know you can't penetrate bone and you pass, I'm your fan. I think that is awesome that you're just going to take certain angles. Tell me how many people do that?
Not very many.
Nobody. Small percentage. So I go for, in that scenario, I want the arrow that's going to work and blow through. Because I've done it with mechanicals and had phenomenal results on them. And I've had crazy stuff happen. So yeah, I'm a penetration absolutist because of that situation, right? Here comes a deer. You say, oh shit, that's one of the better deer I've ever seen in my life. And he's walking this way and he's quartering two the whole time because back here's nothing. If you can get a quartering away shot, you just wait. Smashing. Great. Ideal. That's what you want. And he stops right there at 12 yards and he's quartering two. And shooting him in the middle, quartering two, is a terrible idea. It's a long day. I don't care what broadhead you shoot. That shot back here, one lung, gut kind of thing. Oh, so hard. So hard to get blood trails and to kill them. Whereas if you had 550 or 600 in a single bevel, you could, get tight on the shoulder and say, all right, I know I can do this, at least in the scapular flat. Pull it forward where you can get more than one lung. It's just going to increase your killing percentage. And then when, getting the arrow all the way through them allows a bilateral pneumothorax, which is secondary to the penetration and cutting all the organs, and you get multiple things to kill them. One holders are real bad. They are, the shaft's in the hole. It can clog the hole. It can help the lungs stay inflated. There's all kind of crazy stuff that can happen with the shaft in them. Dudley told me on his podcast that I was on with him, which was basically him telling me that I was doing all the wrong stuff and getting chided and thrown in the corner.
I'm familiar.
He said, "Oh yeah, I prefer to leave the arrow in them because that way the broadhead's bouncing around in there." Hey, buddy, mechanical blades are loose. They're not cutting. They're just wiggling around in there. A fixed blade, if he was a fixed blade guy, you could almost argue that point because then the broadhead is fixed and is going like this. But a rear deploying broadhead, which is what he shoots, we've all touched them. The minute they get loose, they're not cutting. They're just sitting in there. Like they're super loose. Totally impractical.
Yeah.
It's just not logical. No. Like I said, a fixed blade broadhead, if they're running and it's going like this, it's fixed. So it's going to be what he wants. It would be happening. Could happen. But now the blades are just so loose, they would just sit in there and wiggle around.
So one more thing before the last thing I kind of want to touch on later is we get into a little bit more of just like talking about weights and a little bit about just the weight itself, and FOC maybe a little bit, but I want to wrap a bow on like double bevel versus, say the person's down to, like, that's a hard decision for people. They've come to that point. Let's say that's that newer guy that says, okay, I'm going to go fixed head, but I don't know between those two. You said, as far as penetration goes, not much difference until you hit something hard. Then you would lean towards a single. So why not just go single right away? But one thing I heard on a podcast, I don't know what person said it, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it and debunk it if you wish, if you have some data on it. But between the two, they said the biggest difference was the edge retention, in that a double bevel holds its edge better than a single. That a single bevel is an inferior edge and it doesn't hold its edge as well. What are your thoughts on that? And is that true, or?
That's a steel quality issue. So one of the reasons why single bevels are typically more expensive is because you have to have good steel to handle it. So what they're saying is the bevel angle on the Magnus Stinger, I think, is a 23 or something, double bevel. So we're going to call it 20. That means it's a 40-degree bevel. It's 20 on both sides. 3-blade broadheads are 60-degree bevels. Okay? It's 30 on both sides because there's 120 degrees. I don't know. It's 360 degrees, 120-degree angles in between. So they're more steep, which makes them more robust. So you have to have steel quality go up for a single bevel because it is 50% thinner. It is only one side. So a 30-degree single bevel is 30 degrees and flat on the back, not 60. 100%, if that's what they meant. In the most general terms, the steeper edge would be more durable. However, single bevels are thinner. So when you get the blade quality up, the cuts are way sharper. So once you get past the armor, you have this incredibly sharp edged device to kill the freaking deer, whatever you're shooting at. So I would have to have more context around what they meant.
Yeah.
But like I said,
I
blasted my broadhead through the multiple pigs in the head, and a few times it shaved after sideways dome hits. But that steel is really good, and that's one of the reasons why they're so expensive. Like, they're just not practical to make a good single bevel with good steel as far as cost is concerned.
Sure.
The least expensive one's a Magnus, and it's a really, really good head.
Yeah. So minuscule, and it all kind of comes down to the quality of the steel they're using anyways.
100%, man. You get somebody, there's a lot of broad single bevels out there. They're just making a single bevel out of whatever. And they're not worth the crap. There's been a couple of them I've texted and said, or sent messages to and said, hey, man, this is a broadhead of one of my subs shot, and it's all chewed up, like destroyed. They said they didn't hit a rock. Okay, you got to sort of take some of that out, right? And you don't always know.
Yeah.
I said, you might work on your temper. They just get pissed off and tell me I'm stupid, and I'm okay, whatever. I'm trying to help here. I didn't put it out on social. I private messaged them and just said, hey, it's not going to be good for sales. People put this shit out on the internet.
Yeah. So I guess that's something to consider too for people, like some little things that people might overlook. I just want to touch on, whether we don't have to go into it all, but like the orientation of a single bevel, if they choose that as far as flight, right? Like we were talking about helical.
You got to go right. You got to match the helical. It's real simple. Shoot left, shoot right. If you don't, it'll knuckleball. It'll want to knuckleball. And at impact, if it's spinning left and it's a right bevel, it's going to want to go right. So you kind of defeated the purpose. The bevels are going to twist it the other direction, and it's already spun up the other way. So that's just an efficiency deal.
Yep. And then as far as sharpening goes, a person that would buy either of those would assume that they would want to resharpen the head, reuse it. That's something that I would want to do. You're spending the money, and most of them, if they're high quality, you should be able to resharpen them and get them sharp.
Yeah.
Better than out of the package before you hunt anyway.
Yeah, you go to the Ranch Fairy channel. I've put up sharpening videos on just about everything. Single bevels, double bevels, all that stuff. And I use that Work Sharp tool, and good Lord, you can get some. You don't even want to get near them. They're so sharp.
Is the sharpening on a single bevel, like once you do some double bevels, is it doable, or would do you think that would be challenging for someone doing it for the first time, like single versus double? If you
buy, so I was talking about sharpening and stropping, all that stuff with freehand, and this is the strop that we sell at Sirius. That's a magic tool for getting them really sharp. It took me 7 years to find a tool that was idiot proof's a terrible word for it, because sharpening's an art. Like freehand sharpening is an art. I'm good at it now. I screwed up a bunch of broadhead trying to figure it out. But there's a Work Sharp precision adjust It's got a little cam on it. It's got a tower that you can set the bevel, and you just take these stones and rub it on there, and it can't get off. And those things, holy smokes. And the nice thing about it is once the biggest challenge is the tool's not made for the broadhead. It's a knife sharpener, which is nice because you buy the thing and you can sharpen knives too. But so sometimes it'll cut a different bevel into it because it's not designed for that broadhead. It'll get sharp, but once you reset it a little bit, it's not 5 degrees or anything. It'll just be a little bit different. It's set. And then when it gets dull, you literally just put it back on there and go to town. Like, it's great. And God, they get sharp. I mean, it's really good. Like, it's like terrifying how good they get. And the sharp thing is another penetration component nobody really thinks about, but the sharper it is, the less resistance it's going to have. It's just going to cut right in, fly through. And then the internal organs get severed more easily and all that good stuff. Airways, all that stuff. And arteries are semi-muscular. They're more like spaghetti than they are like a balloon. And if your broadhead is dull, they'll ride over the top of it. And that sucks because you hit it. You just didn't cut it. I've done arterial sticks in a previous job. You stick a needle right here to pull oxygenated blood out of a human being. You'll slide the needle in and you'll see the artery go, no, and just roll to the side. That sucks. The patients don't like that.
I would
Jesse,
imagine
do you have any
not.
rabbit holes for us on this deal?
I do know that, touching on like the sharpness part, it is hard. It's harder to close up a clean cut than it is like a tear, I guess you could say, with a duller.
Yeah, I touched them. I touched one of the single bevels the other day, and I got that little sucker right there on my finger, and it bled forever. I mean, it was just sitting here, and I was fiddling around, and just touched it, and it lit me up. Yeah, that's a big thing. There's also, physiologically speaking, less of an endorphin, a reaction to a very clean cut than there is to a shredded cut. It's just the way your body reacts to it. And I've talked about it this way. The simplest explanation of that is you have fix-a-flat in your blood. Everything does. And when you get cut, your body calls for the fix-a-flat to come in. It's called prothrombin and all this other stuff. I'm not going to talk about that. You have fix-a-flat. If you take a hacksaw and cut a piece of PVC pipe, it's got these hairs on the edges of it. If you cut it with a PVC cutter, it's clean. The fix-a-flat has to have something to grab onto. So if it's shredded, it'll grab those edges and start to build and clot. It's just a physiologic fact at the simplest level. But it's a fact.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. They run too far. Dead deer don't run. We want them dead.
That's a pretty good way of dumbing it down for somebody like me. Fix flat.
No, it's just simple. Yeah, it's fix a flat.
Yeah.
It's in there. There's no doubt. It's 100% accurate.
I feel like, I don't know where I heard it, but the dumbest thing I ever heard was somebody was saying something along the lines of, I like shooting dull broadheads because something about they do more damage or something, but they don't want a clean cut because they're shredding.
They've shot too many bullets. It's just not a reasonable. It's not a reasonable strategy.
And I've heard that argument before.
Here's
and it
why.
does cold water.
I've said this a ton. Broadheads either stay sharp or dull. They don't get sharper at impact. So if you start out with dull and it dulls, it's worse. If you take a really sharp, hair popping, good steel broadhead and it erodes 20%, you're at a B plus. You take a B plus broadhead, it's a D. And you're shooting a full metal jacket bullet through them. It's just going to push everything out of the way. It's a terrible idea. Good luck with that.
La-
It's a needle
last-
through. It's needle through. It's a needle through
Yeah.
yarn ball. It's exactly what happens.
Last thing before we get on to arrow weights is explain a little bit, so because I didn't really understand them at first either, and I think just so people, you probably have a good explanation or reason for them. The
Mhm.
interruptions or serrations, like you see them in all
Yeah,
the
sure.
Magnus
Of
heads.
course.
They have a
course.
straight version versus that. Like, what's the purpose for that?
Okay. So Mike's original purpose was to try to make the blade longer by making U shapes in it. He wanted the same length broad blade, but he put U's in it to make the cutting edge longer. That was his. So inside there is a curve and it's long. It's longer. He wanted more cutting surface. Accidentally, he created a grabbing mechanism that's sharp. And lung tissue in particular is very mobile. It isn't real static. It's not ballistic gel. It's more like a sponge. It's very similar to a sponge. So the little chisel serrations, they're sharp on top. So the blade is continuously sharp, and then inside of them is sharp. So when that really mobile tissue gets in those curves, as it's getting wadded up on the broadhead, it just does more damage. I haven't pulled lungs apart and seen like this massive amount of damage, but it can't hurt.
Yep.
And we have had no penetration issues whatsoever with them, even on the Hornet, which is a pretty steep broadhead. And then my broadhead, the Troy broadhead with this particular broadhead with my homemade serrations in the back of it that I asked Ed, let's test it. There's still one in Africa. It passed completely through a Cape Buffalo and they couldn't find it. So the honest answer is it's inconclusive if it helps. I can't tell you it's 20% better. I can't. We know it doesn't hurt penetration. And it makes sense that it's going to be a little bit more cutting going on inside.
Yeah, if it adds one more thing that it could do, but you don't see any disadvantages to it, why not,
One more artery you clip that you wouldn't, or something. Just something weird like that.
Sure.
And then it's a little more efficient. But we have seen no penetration changes. I've had a couple of reports that on low poundage, like with kids, that they seem to grab a little more, which makes sense. So super low velocity, right? 40-pound bow, 25-inch draw. They think I had one guy who actually tested it and his son shot like 4 deer, and the straight edge one with his very low poundage bow worked better. Now, could that have been 2 separate hits that just happened to hit perfectly and all that? It's not enough deer to say it's conclusive, but it was 4. It's better than 1, right? Everybody's test of everything is always 1. It worked. Great. Shoot 10 more. But yeah, I don't think it can hurt. But like I said, as far as penetration is concerned, there's still one in Africa. So they shot 5 or 6 into a Cape Buffalo and didn't have any penetration issues.
Cool. Yeah, that just clears some things up for me and someone else that just looks at them and says, what the heck are those,
Yeah, right.
So I want to kind of transition and our last little mini topic to end it off before we do some listener questions at the very end, is arrow weights. There's a bunch of different things that relate to arrow weight, why it needs to be this or that. Kind of, you can take the reins on this because I'm not in deep on it. Like I said, I usually do whatever weight makes my arrow be a certain feet per second in that range. That's not ungodly fast, ungodly slow. So
Okay.
I don't think of it much more than that. So however you want to kind of take arrow weight and how it relates to FOC, what you recommend for different setups, you kind of just start it and we'll kind of bounce in when we can.
We'll talk about deer because that's 90% of it. Like deer pays the bills. We talked about that. So I knew what I was seeing. I just talked about the kind of dirt splash I was getting off broadheads is going, that thing's flying through it like 100 miles an hour. Like it's not even slowing down. But I didn't understand what I was seeing. I know I had a more efficient broadhead. I had more mass. It got heavier. Half-ass arrow tune back then. Didn't know anything about bear shaft. But I was seeing, these just lightning bolts. Like it was amazing compared to the previous 15 years of doing it. And then I got a LabRadar. And I started looking at downrange momentum. So 430, I have like 436, 515. Like they're not perfectly spaced because I walked the spine up as I shot them to keep my arrow flight intact. So it isn't perfectly 25 grains. Okay. So that's why it's like 436 grains is a pretty average normal arrow you hear about everybody shoot. 430 to 450 is kind of everybody's kind of acceptable arrow these days. A 589 grain arrow has more momentum at 60 yards than a 436 grain arrow does at the bow. At launch. And I went, okay, I get it. We are delivering a ton more energy on target. And this is combined with arrow flight, perfect. Okay. And a very efficient broadhead that doesn't have a lot of resistance. So you've lowered resistance, your arrow flight is good, and the broadhead, it's got a ton of momentum and low resistance. And that's kind of the magic sauce of why it's flying through them. You put a mechanical on the front of that thing, and you add a ton of resistance because of the blade angles. We've chewed on that fat, right? And then it wants to stop. Newton. So my recommendation for deer hunting is 550. All forward. Don't get a heavy arrow. Put it in the front. You want a bullet with a tail. You want the mass in a very small area. So remember when I was talking about the arrow getting cockeyed and flying on the shot line? If you get an arrow that's 12 grains per inch and put a 100 grain broadhead on it, that shaft is heavy. If it redirects, that little bullet that's heavy will go and pull. Like screw you. I weigh 300 grains. You only got 200 back there, right? 250. So, but when you have a really heavy shaft, it wants to go on the shot line because it's heavy and it's behind the broadhead. So that's why, and once again, I'm in the dirt guy. So 550 on a deer, Oh my God. You could, in a single bevel, you won't even realize you'll think you missed. I get that all the time.
Are you seeing any differences? You were talking 60 yards and momentum that's different at 60. What about at like 15? Like super close. What's the difference there?
It's still like 20% higher. The momentum curve is like that. So it's already a much higher momentum at the bow. It's already higher. I think it's like, so 589, roughly 20% higher momentum at the bow. So it's already got all this extra pop despite the velocity. I mean, you're probably losing 25 feet per second, if I remember, maybe 30, maybe at launch. But you've increased the mass so you've lost 15% of your speed, and you've increased the mass by 60%, 50%, 45% roughly. So that's why it's mass times velocity.
Yeah.
You've got this massive mass jump, and the velocity didn't decrease that much. And what's interesting about roughly 550 to 600 is you start to see this. If you will get a multi-pin sight and shoot around 550 or 600, 65 pounds-ish, you'll see your pin gaps like consistent. They don't open up over distance. The arrow flies in more of a parabola that's consistent, whereas a lighter arrow flies very fast and drops off, and you'll see your pin gaps open up. If you really honestly go look at your tape for a 430 grain arrow, you'll see it open up. It gets wider and wider and wider, especially out to 70, 80. It gets big out there. And you're having to manage this arrow that's coming in more point down on the lighter shaft, especially past 40 or 50. So inside of that, flat arrow shoots flatter. There's no arguing you there. But the momentum piece was hard. Once I saw the momentum, I was like, okay, wow, that explains a lot on why arrows don't fly through deer. And then you take them elk hunting. Terrifying. Terrifying. Especially at 60. Gets
So
tough out there.
You said your ideal arrow weight's 550 for a whitetail, your typical
For deer.
whitetail setup. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this earlier. How heavy is too heavy? You said something along the range of like 800 or something like that. Like what's like too heavy?
That's obviously an animal question, but we'll stay in North America. The trajectory gets real impractical around 700. Then you see the really pretty okay, and then it really starts to plummet past 40. So when I went Nilgai hunting, they're about 600 pounds. They're 3/4 of an elk. I shot 700 grains, but I just wasn't going to shoot 40 yards. But they're big, big animals. And if you're going to Africa and you're going to shoot Cape Buffalo, 800 is not too light for sure, right? That's a huge animal. But for North America, a 650 grain arrow on deer inside of 40, it's a completely different earth with those things. It's hilarious what they'll do to them. I mean, they're just not there. They're just not there. I mean, I have people all the time. I don't know if you see my Instagram, but all deer season is pictures of all the people. That's my primary goal in life, is help everybody else. And I get messages all the time. They're like, I thought I missed. I heard the arrow hit the ground and I thought I missed. And then the deer went 35 yards and rolled up. They're like, oh, but they're seeing their arrow skipping. It's got so much pop. And so when you get with that kind of an arrow system with a single bevel on the front, should something go wrong, you've got that pop. So I've had a ton of people come at me on stupid comments saying it's got too much juice. I shot 4 deer with them. It blows through them so fast. It's a waste of energy until you hit something hard. Until you make a mistake, the deer jumps, you hit the shoulder blade, got to break the spine. God help you, you want the pop. So it's just a different way of looking at lethality.
How could
Maximum.
You're setting yourself up. Yeah.
When the end goal is a dead animal,
it's a weird comment, but I get a lot. Like they're like it's there's too much. Like there's no reason for it. I'm like, so you shot 3 deer, the arrow went 35 yards past them, or you lost it because it went 50 yards, and the deer went 35 and fell over. And another thing we're seeing, and I get this a ton, and it's something I saw early on, when those arrows pass through with all of that pop, they don't react the same. It's very common for them to hop 20 yards and start walking. You want to talk about something that's going to help your blood trails is when they don't run fast. It sounds crazy, but you shoot something that's that efficient and it just zips through them super sharp, right? Like when you cut yourself, I didn't really feel that. I just started bleeding. And they hop, and maybe trot. If they were running full speed, they cover 200 yards with their, ass on fire. And they just hop, stand around and tip over. at the blood trail. They're right there. We see that a lot. We see that a ton,
I've,
especially on deer for
and
some
I've
reason.
noticed that same thing too. Shooting deer with, I shot 2 deer with single bevels, and I had pass throughs. One, I had a full pass through on a frontal shot, clean through the whole works. He
Yep.
was ruddered up. I shot him, and he
Yep.
jumped and just kind of looked around, and then put his ears back, and it looked
Mhm.
like somebody just turned a faucet on underneath him, and he just tipped over. And then I've had
Mhm.
them already with expandables,
Mhm.
where I think they feel that pressure of the blades opening up, or they know something hit them.
I
Yeah,
think they're getting punched. I think the blades are popping them, right?
same thing. And I shot a
And they
bear
run.
also with a 3-blade Muzzy when I was like 16,
Mhm.
and I shot him, and he kind of spun around real fast, and then just didn't know what happened, and then just tipped over.
Mhm. Right. So you start to get all these components together. You can get more aggressive. You can shoot more forward. You can go through the aortic arch into the heart where all the major vessels are. 2 lungs, big vessels cut, airways cut, and they don't run. You're going to have them run every once in a while. Stuff's going to
What
happen. But
what's more
ideally, no.
what's more lethal? What's more lethal? All those things that you just mentioned stacked on top of each other, or a little bit bigger hole and a little bit more blood, but you're
100%.
not
And
getting
then
any of those. You know what I
I
mean?
call it gut shooting them, but the 4 inches behind the crease is a terrible idea. And that came out of the mechanical business because that's the best place for them to penetrate. I'm gonna get my phone plugged in here, but the opportunity, if you hit below mid body, 4 inches behind the crease, you're very, very close to the guts. That's just physiology. This isn't a piss and match. That is the absolute facts of physiology, that the guts are right there below that back of the lungs, as they tilt up there. And you can get yourself in a whole lot of trouble back there as far
Yeah.
as having to track.
If the goal is to kill the animal as quick as possible, I mean, yes, if you shot the deer back of the lungs and guts with expandable every single time, the soft tissue area, would it
Mhm.
kill it? Yes, but it's not as efficient and as lethal and as ethical as putting it in the heart, which is usually covered by something a little bit stronger and tougher. Like if your
Mostly
end
meat,
goal is to
though.
kill it quick.
So the Vital V, it's like, let's say I always advocate for going straight up the leg, go about 2 inches above the elbow and send it. And you have a big piece of shoulder beat there. It's resistant to penetration. It's tough on mechanicals because it's 3 to 4 inches thick on a big whitetail, right? And so it's just a big, solid mass. And then rib cage, right? Don't forget there's ribs. Got to hit those guys to get to the internal organs. So it just makes it more challenging. But the far back shooting is 100% from the mechanical business, because it favors that area back there, favors mechanical penetration. It's just softer. The ribs are thinner. That's pure physiology.
Yeah.
But it's risky. I mean, I've got a couple of videos up where I actually put blocks, like I just took it on an art program and cover up the whole deer from down the crease. So the head and the crease is covered up, and then I show you what's left. And it's a tiny piece of the lung. And there's an angle there with the guts down here. So if you hit vertically mid body, you're going, if they ate a lot, their stomach's big, you're gut shooting them. Like that changes. I said this to somebody I was talking to a guy on the phone, and he basically told me that the organs are the same all the time. And I said, hey, have you ever gotten your wife pregnant? Because I promise you, her lungs are not in the same place when she's 8 months pregnant they were when she was walking around when you were thinking about getting her pregnant. And he was like, And so that stuff changes. And when you go above the elbow, you've got the biggest room for error. Should they move or whatever. Not to mention hitting the heart or a part of the heart and getting two lungs. Oh, buddy, it's hard on them.
Yeah.
It
and
multiplies the amount of damage
and
exponentially.
just from experience, I feel like someone who's new to archery or like hasn't shot a lot of deer, your natural instinct when you put your pin on a deer is to hug that shoulder. You know, like you almost have to try to say, I need to be 6-8 inches behind the shoulder. If you're doing that center mass, that expandable center mass game, you have to think. That's another thing you have to think about. Okay, it can't be close to the shoulder, or not just limiting your shot opportunities that you're willing to take, but just it's another thing you have to think about. Like, and naturally, you just want to put it right in that crease and go.
The greatest, educator on that is that pigs don't have very big lungs at all. So they're walking trash cans. Like they're not sprinters, right? Their lungs end at the crease. So there's no choice. You have got to shoot them forward or quartering away and bury it in there, right? But on a broadside shot, if you hit 2 inches behind the crease, you're about 50-50 at finding them. And that's my biggest trouble with people who've never shot one. We'll shoot in camp. They will hit where I tell them. And then when the shit goes down, they shoot them 4 inches, but 2 inches behind the crease. And they bring back, or I'm with them, or they bring back video. I say, well, good luck with that. I'm not even going out there. Y'all go looking. You'll have a great time. Make sure you got your Onyx on, because I don't want to meet my neighbors and have the game warden involved. Don't jump any fences. See ya. And it's very difficult to aim where you got to on those guys. And I mean, I'm talking in the shoulder on a broadside shot, like 2 inch in front of the crease. And it is devastating when you hit them there. I mean, the best thing you can see on a feral hog when you hit him, if they're running away and their ass is going like this, they're dead.
Yeah.
When I see them doing the caboose, I'm like, yeah, baby. I'll wait about 2 minutes and go get them. Like, it's awesome. You see them running away and the back legs ain't working too good. It's fantastic. But they're very, very, very critical on shot placement. A 200-pound hog's lungs are about the size of your hand.
Really?
They're really low and they're very small. Yeah, they're not meant to run around. They root and walk. They don't do anything. And once they get to about 120 pounds, nothing messes with them. Not here. We don't have a lot of cats or anything eating them, like big cats. So when they're shoats, they get whacked by the bobcat some. But once they get to probably 80 pounds, and they're just bullets.
Makes sense.
They're crazy.
Yeah. Last thing I got before Jesse has anything is relating to that arrow weight. You talked about 550. Anything less than that, is there any like acceptable weight for guy? Like you said, the most common weight's 450. Is there a setup that you'd recommend for someone who is set on that weight just because they put their arrows together
just
with
get the best? If you're going to shoot that, be disciplined. Don't do anything stupid. Get the best arrow flight you can and shoot, we've talked about a lot of shoot the Stinger or single bevel or the Magnus or something that's super efficient on impact. If you just can't bear to see that arrow flying that slow, then that's fine. But you're gonna have to be more disciplined on your shot angles. And that 1/4 shot, shooting back is a disaster. And shooting forward, it may break stuff. There's no 100%. The only 100% broadhead is that one in testing by Ed to break bone. But so you can break bone with a 350 grain arrow. It happens. But we're not talking about one-offs.
Yeah.
We're talking about maximum lethality, right? So I would go with the momentum though. If I cared about shooting foam, which I couldn't give a hoot about any of that stuff, it just isn't in me. I would have 2 arrow setups. I would have my fun arrows and I would have a completely different I would have hunting arrows. I would have maximum lethality projectiles. Minimum 550 is a rough number because that's where I saw WoW the first time. I'm over 600 all the time just because I got used to it. And it's just even better because the momentum just keeps going up. But round 550, perfect flight, efficient broadhead, sharp. There's a lot of pieces to it. There's no one thing. Mass don't fix everything. You put a shitty broadhead that's dull on the front, you can shoot 1,000 grainer. It ain't worth a damn. If it's flying sideways and it weighs 700 grains, it's a piece of crap. It's all of it. That's why we talked about the bear shaft so much. It takes so much effort. It's so much work to get them right. I mean, and it's worth every freaking rep. It's
I think
so worth it.
And that's the thing. I think everybody just gets caught up or hear you say like this. They get stuck on that, just the total arrow weight number, and they don't realize that there's so many other.
Watched any of my content.
Yeah,
and this is my fault. I don't realize how aged things get. I need to go back through arrow flight. I'm starting that arrow school, and it's going to have bear shaft, how to build them, how to make them right, how to noctune, how to mark them, how to fletch, how to run a Bitzenberger, all that stuff. Super detailed, very short videos, like 3 to 5 minutes long, step by step. Like something simple. When you mount inserts, pull the nocks. There's air inside. If you don't pull the knock, a couple of your inserts will slip up. You'll push the knock in, and the epoxy, the air inside will push the insert up. Dumb stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't think about it.
That's a $25 mistake. Premium component, right? Premium shaft, and then you go, damn it! My insert's an eighth of an inch up. You can't put it back because I use JB Weld, so it's dead, right? But that's the biggest thing. I get a lot of crap about everybody wants to isolate it to one thing, and they don't realize how much I'm involved in the aerofly piece. So I think that's my mistake, is that I have not reproduced stuff I've already got for subscribers that have no idea what they're talking about. But in the dirt, man.
Jess, you got anything to add?
No problem.
Yeah, so I got a question on, okay, you get a brand new bow and you're going to start setting that bow up.
Mm-hmm.
You get your rest set up, center shot. From my understanding, watching your videos, you don't really mess with cameling at all. You're tuning the arrow to the bow.
Yep. But it's I mean, the bow's squared up. Like it's best way for your front tires is to be in alignment.
So that's kind of almost like a traditional archery way of setting a bow up. You're tuning that arrow to that bow. Have you ever messed with
that we cut those down. I did 10 years of trad, and you cut them until they shoot.
Do you have a set arrow length at all?
So what I did with no, you just go till it flies. Do I for my compound, or you're talking about trad? So I shoot a 28.5 carbon to carbon. It's about 29 1/4 done. Knock adds length, insert adds length, right? And for somebody, that's why we started the test kits in my store. When you change the point weight, you change the spine. It's not a lot, but a 300 is not a 300 with 300 grains up front, right? It's a 450. It softens them up. Likewise, if you lower the point weight, they get stiffer. So I was trying to figure out a way for a guy in his backyard to have 10 arrows that he could play with. And when you get 2 spines and 5 field points, you have 10 different arrows you're gonna launch, and just what flies or gets really close. So if you go from 4-inch tears down to a 3/4 inch tear, then you might start fiddling with it. But you found what it really wants to shoot, and then you could tweak it in, as opposed to making that arrow that really flexed out and bending the bow and making it shoot it. So I was trying to make somebody in their backyard like me have a simple way to have 10 arrows. So in that kit, when you put the 125 on, a 250 and a 300, that's 2 different arrows. They bend completely differently. And you just walk the points up. And so it's very much like the traditional way of doing it with the cut down. And that cut down thing works
Yeah.
like crazy good. I'm going to probably put that on my private channel. I do not want to put it on the open channel because I don't want the questions over 1/16 of an inch. People will just OCD me to death. If you want to pay to talk to me about that, I'll friggin' let you pay me. But the cut down thing would work. Start with full length and then whatever it wants to shoot, shoot. And I just said, well, if we play with point weights, people could get real close. I mean, it would improve. And I've seen it myself. And it's not been a problem. I just don't like the, well, I mean, you're already going to get 100 grain insert. So you're already going, you're going to be a 500 without even blinking an eye. So you get more momentum. And then it's a pretty inexpensive, 70 or 80 bucks, but it's an inexpensive set of 10 arrows you get to play with. And then I also have fletch kits, and I have a whole process on how to do fletch tuning, and you shoot it through paper the whole 9 yards. It's pretty close to bare shaft, but you got to go to broadheads on that one. Like, I'm super specific. I just say, this is a 2-week process, but you got to go to broadheads because they're the gold standard. That's the hunting platform. You got to shoot the damn things. And the nice thing about the fletch kits is if you don't fletch your own arrows and you get a bare shaft kit, you basically figured it out and you kind of wasted your money. I'm not a very good salesman, but you found out what flies, but those arrows aren't any good to you if you don't fletch. With the fletch kit, once you figure out what flies and you go to broadheads and the broadheads fly, you have 2 that are right. You order 6, you have 8. You order a dozen, you have 14. And while you're waiting on your arrows to come in, you can shoot those 2, and wear it out. So that's the advantage of that. So I tried to make it as easy as I could for just people in their backyards 2 hours from an archery shop to get to play with arrows. It'd be super expensive if you did it order two. Lancaster used to sell singles. That's how I started with the bare shaft stuff. I would just order singles from Lancaster, and then I would order field points from Amazon or whatever, and I would just try to figure it out. Well, all of a sudden I got it to work, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just some idiot in his backyard, literally, sitting here in my garage shooting bare shafts through paper going, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's just been really good. The people who've done it have, messaged me back and said, I cannot get over my fletched arrow flight. Like, it's ridiculous how good it is. I said, yeah, you put in the work. But deciding that your arrow is a good penetrator and bending the bow to shoot it, I don't know. Just deciding. So, Jake, this isn't a slam on you, but you're talking about, I'll try to say around 270, 280, and that that's what I mean. And I'm not kicking you in the head. You've decided that because of that velocity, that's a good hunting penetrator.
Mm-hmm. Based on what I'm using now.
I'm not trying to burn you down here. I'm just saying it's backward. It's 100% backwards from how I think. I want the freaking thing in the dirt. I'll figure out how to shoot it. So that's why I want more mass. I want them to be invisible. I want the arrow to go through them so fast, it's like you missed. I don't want it to wiggle, shake. I don't want it to fall out the other side. I want it to bury in a damn tree. I've had multiple people shoot through saplings and kill a deer. They didn't see it. Now the arrow didn't penetrate that great, but it got them, right? But they're like, this is crazy. And there's a sapling with a split, and, it drove in halfway into the deer. And I get pictures every year of all broadheads buried to they're gone. They're in the tree, like buried past all the way to the insert, covered in blood. And they're literally like, I hate these arrows. They penetrate too much. They're kidding. But
they're just mad they lose all their arrows.
Yeah, right. And then I've got a friend who's a big time elk hunter out west, and he's a elk killing machine. And he shoots 700 grains. He's shot 2 elk that he shoulder shot like a gun, and they folded up. Just broke them, like they just flop right there. And I gave him, there was this one tough head that they made for a few years. Then I had a few of them when I saw him, and he goes, "Oh, can I have those?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And he, I said, "Well, that's good for the next 10 years." He goes, "Nope. Every time I shoot an elk, I lose them." So he's shooting through elk, and they go off and they go down the canyon. He said, "I never get them back." You just don't hear about performance like that. He doesn't social. He doesn't want to do anything. He just leave me alone. I'll just fold them up. He's shot 2 elk, frontal out the ass and passed through. Yeah, 2. But yeah, he's Captain Fearless. It's amazing what he does. And he's a god. He kills some big bulls.
Cool. Forget
So,
the
yeah,
feet per
that's-
second.
Yeah. Well, however you want to get to, I don't really care. It's just because I'm a in the dirt absolutist.
Yeah.
Momentum helps, sharpness helps, arrow flight, all that stuff. I don't care about the speed. This is my closest analogy is if you're in the military and you drive a tank, would you prefer to shoot a projectile that they've actually shot at the armor you're going to shoot at and know that it works, or just guess because it's fast? I would prefer that they tested it. Because if it bounces off a tank, they'll shoot back at you. And so that's kind of the closest analogy I've got to it. And then
Makes sense.
just gets crazy. Yeah, you hang around Ed a lot and you realize that he was just testing maximum penetration. He wasn't concerned how to get it there. Perfect arrow flight is one of the 12 factors. Okay, sharp, single bevel, all that stuff. So everything we're talking about is part of Ed's thing. We'll get into this on the bow podcast when we do that. 90% of the archery industry is concerned about getting it to them, and they act like it's going to go through them. Watch YouTube. We don't see like huge penetration generally, right? Ed said, "I want to hunt big animals and I need maximum penetration. I'll figure out how to shoot the damn thing, like how to adjust for trajectory or whatever," right? And he killed 2 rhinos with a bow. I mean, he's done a couple of things. So it's a complete reframing of archery versus bow hunting results. When you're shooting 3D or Vegas rounds, it just has a stick in a 1/4 inch and you score. If it goes 5 inches into a deer, it'll probably be a long day.
Yeah, it's just reframing that mindset, because like that feet per second that I have in my head, that's more not even thinking about what's more important, the lethality of and the penetration of the hunting side. It's
No,
what-
like I said, I wasn't trying to kick you in the head.
No.
Your statement's very common, and the nice thing about talking to you beforehand and all that, you're giving up velocity for arrow flight. Like you've acknowledged,
Yeah.
you said here, and we've talked a little bit on the phone and crap, that you could go 325 or you could get stupid. And Jesse, I think you're in the same park here. The broadheads get a little wild. And so that 270, 280, you're actually taking velocity off so your arrows fly good. That's a great thing. I just do it with mass.
Yeah, because I'm sitting right now with a 553 grain arrow as 263
Yes.
feet per second is what I'm getting out of mine. That's 29
Yeah.
and a half inch draw at 70
That's
pounds.
That's a beast of a hunting arrow, dude. You don't realize how good that is. That's freaking awesome. And it goes back to, and I'm sound like I'm blowing my own horn here, but you were talking about back. You're obviously old enough or done it long enough. Our arrows used to fly at 240. Like I didn't really have trouble. We had Zwicky on the front. I didn't know how to sharpen. It was terrible. But they shot pretty accurate with aluminums. 2117 was probably 600 grains, and they're heavy.
Yeah.
So it was all backwards. It wasn't high FOC, none of that stuff. But they flew pretty
And
good.
it's crazy how many people you talk to
Yep.
just like frequenting the bow shop and stuff. A lot of the older generation, I'd say that loosely, but how
Right.
much they complain about fixed blade arrow flight now, and they never had problems years ago.
No. The boat, I don't know if I can't decide if that's a velocity thing or if that aluminums were more consistent than carbon. Carbon's pretty damn consistent. I haven't gone into that rabbit hole. I probably never will because carbon's superior material. Doesn't break, doesn't bend. I mean, it breaks or it doesn't bend. Super durable. There's no reason to mess with aluminums. But yeah, we just didn't have trouble. Thunderheads did fine. Zwickies, of course. There was only about 5 broadheads out when I started. And then the Puckett blood trailer showed up. And that was a broadhead that actually had a point that slammed down to get the blades to go out. And that thing was like shooting a blunt at them. I mean, it was terrible because the point would come down. Like it would give up energy to open the blades up. Like it was a terrible idea. But the 320 guys, the 300 foot per second guys back then with an overdraw and a carbon, they would fly kind of straight. So they gave up all this efficiency at impact for velocity and a broadhead that flies, right? And it's just, yeah, man, your arrow sounds
Yeah.
awesome. That's exactly where
year-
I'd be. And for the audience, if you're still here, for the audience, 550 is a general number. If 520 flies and 570 doesn't, shoot 520 or fix 570. So don't throw me a hole. Get around 550, but if 570 flies like a dart and 520 doesn't, shoot the one that flies. You're going to be much happier. That's 100%, man.
Yep.
That's another nice thing about the test kit is you can, those point weights move that all around too. So,
Sure.
yeah, Jesse, I'm proud of you, dude. That's a beast. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Right. Right. And then go whack some stuff. So how much broadhead mass are you running? 150? 125 with a 100 grain insert, probably. Okay. There's something coming out with with Magnus soon on the single bevel side. Just hang on.
I actually, I'm not going to say it obviously now, but I talked to Derek about that, and it's intriguing enough that I might wait until they come out and give them a try.
Oh yeah, the prototype should be here in the next week, and I'm supposed to try to break them. So I talked to those guys. But the original single bevel, we had to make 3 adjustments on the tip and the Tonto because we were bending it about 4 months before it came out. No, it was a year. The hunting public here was June 2 years ago, and we shot it through pig heads, and we were getting this tiny little tip in. I mean, it was tiny. And the Tonto was it needed to be more like this, more brutal. It's really short and is bladed, but it's supposed to take on impact. You hit something hard, it's supposed to be pretty brutal and like a chipping mechanism to dig in. And we called Mike on the phone and said, hey, buddy, you needed to steepen up the Tonto. And we had a couple of issues with something else. I don't remember what it was, but we fixed that. Well, I'm going to get the new toys from Magnus and be pretty exciting. And I'm going to do some brutal stuff to them and just try to find the flaws in it. I don't think there's going to be many. We're mostly worried about the component, the ferrule, but more to come on that. It's gonna be pretty cool. All the folks who bought the single bevel are gonna go, oh, gotta have that. So it'll be fun.
It should be good. It's going to be a V2. You got the V1 kind of to work the kinks out, and it should be pretty good, I would imagine.
The V1 has sold.
Crap,
We've sold so many of those things, and people have been thrilled with them. I mean, they have absolutely killed, wrecked stuff. I mean, going into the Vital V, aiming aggressive, and just blowing stuff down. And, you know, despite all the heavy stuff, the really adult 650 plus kind of arrows, 90% of the arrows we sell at in my store are 525 to 580. It just seems to be a good, whatever the combination of spine and that mass and the forward weight seems to fly for the widest majority of people. And people constantly tell me, man, I really wanted to be at 650, but 590 flies. And I'm like, stop the OCD, buddy. Stay with what flies. The hardest ones to convince are the ones that 640 flies they said it's like a laser, but I really wanted more velocity. I'm like, it flies like it's, don't mess with it. Just adjust your pins and go kill stuff. So it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We're going to do just a couple like rapid fire, some like they're not necessarily related specifically to broadheads or arrows or anything. One, and they're sent in by listeners, like the thing I put up, people could send in stuff yesterday. Why do you think that you get so much pushback or so much hate online or in the comment section? Is it more just you're going against marketing, or your somewhat semi-sarcastic personality in your videos, like joking around? Like what?
I'm glad you brought
What
that
do you
one up.
think?
So that's awesome.
I think that's
a good answer
I
for the
think that's
sarcasm.
something people that don't really
It's fine.
take into
So
account.
I'm a disruptor, 100%. The standard industry line is get the arrow to them and it'll go through them. And it's BS. We see it on YouTube. And I said this earlier, that these poor people are being told by the marketing people, if you get a half an arrow in a deer, you can kill an elk with it. It's a terrible thing. The sarcastic thing is I'm kind of a smart ass and naturally sarcastic. It's the language of the intelligent. And so if I was nice, it wouldn't have been any better. Ed Ashby is the nicest person you'll ever meet. He will never say, F you, I killed 2 rhinos, blow it out your ass, you don't know what you're talking about. He would never say that. He never talks about the rhinos. He killed 2 with a longbow. His testing is no one's ever going to do it again. 30 years of it. Right? And he's super nice. And he's ostracized as well. He's in the Bow Hunting Hall of Fame, but they let him in and didn't mention it. Right? He's done multiples of talks. And like Pope and Young Foundation, he does a talk and then they never call him again. So if I was nice, it would be the same. And I didn't calculate that. I am a smartass. So that's my own fault. It's my natural tendency to be pretty sarcastic and like to laugh and stuff and think it's fun. But I don't think the results would have been any different looking back because of how much I've gotten to know Ed and how many
Yeah.
podcasts I've been on and how many podcasts I've had people do with him. He's the nicest guy in the world. He's super curious. You can ask him questions. If you didn't know, you know what he'll say? I don't know. He won't say, well, we tested sort of that and massage around and try to make you feel good that he's smart. He'll say, yeah, no, I never thought of that. Well, hell, we ought to test it. 100% he'll say that. Love him for that. So I don't know that the hate thing would have been any different.
No,
Looking back.
It nice guys finish last. Like, you're being you. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It wouldn't have
Who cares?
mattered. And one of the funny things, and we'll keep going, is what on the very heavily scientific part, there's no doubt I'm right, math-based videos. I get more personal attacks and off-topic comments, but nobody argues the math. I don't get comments that say your math's wrong. That's absolutely incorrect. No comments. That's when they get personal. It's so funny. You got them. When they get personal, you got them. Like they can't argue the topic. It's hilarious.
All right.
Don't play in the Goonies squad if you don't expect the Goonies to come out. How's that?
Good enough answer for me. All right. I only got a couple left here. There's a whole list of them, but you answered a lot of them throughout this conversation because we talked about a lot. Thought we kind of talked about this already, but it's just one I want to throw in again. Thoughts on range error and flight time and animal reaction?
So I did the math on that. It was 0.09 seconds with a 600 and some odd grain arrow versus 436. That's a popcorn fart. The comments on that video were outrageous. This assumes that everybody's perfect and the arrow's never off target, which is completely impractical because my data was just 60. It wasn't close. Okay. And then the third part is the general conversation around this is the animal moving. The time to target thing is about the animal moving. What are you going to hit? Tell me exactly what you're going to hit. And then we can have a conversation about that. Every time you would have to be 100% certain that the light arrow would, in fact, not interact with a bone. And then you win every time. Tell me that's going to happen. Prove it. Like, seriously. Whereas I'm advocating for a penetrator that will handle it. So no shooter error is assumed at 60. And you can guarantee me that just because it gets there 0.9 of a second faster, okay, that you're not going to interact with a bone. And if you could do that every time, you win. 100%, there's no doubt. Then the faster arrow wins because you would say that the heavy arrow will hit a bone. It's designed for that. But let's just say worst case scenario, it doesn't penetrate, but the fast arrow just gets a half inch under the scapula every single time. The deer don't always drop, they spin too. So it's too variable to say that you know certainly what's happened, and the shooter error thing's a huge problem. I'm not that good, right?
Yeah, I'm not either.
Right.
All right. You kind of touched on that a little bit. The last one, you talk about plan B, right? Planning for plan B.
Yep. It's a
Being
huge deal.
something hard, the shoulder, bone. I think someone asked, it's kind of worded a little bit different, but if your plan B is the shoulder or something hard, what if your plan B is soft tissue or further back? Like the inverse of that.
And it just passes through and you have to go deal with it. I mean,
I don't know if
They-
they meant. I don't know if they meant by that like
The
saying
question probably is a mechanical would open up and make a humongous hole, and you've made a shitty shot, so you're hoping for the most damage. And I would probably say that would actually lean towards the mechanical side. So you're talking about missing by a foot
on purpose.
on purpose, right? Who misses by a foot? That's another thing that's interesting about YouTube. You don't see a lot of really crazy shots that are way back. You see shots that are aimed 4 inches behind the crease because you can tell by the hunter. They're like, that's where I was aiming. Like you can tell their reaction is not, oh, that arrow flew sideways. They're like, I can't believe that deer ain't dead. So anyway, yeah, I want to do another one with you guys because I want to pick your brains on. I listened to y'all talk about your bow setup, some of the tweaks you've made, da 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 da. I don't understand a lot of that stuff, and I guarantee it will help me.
Yeah.
Understand bows a little better because I get between 400 and 1,000 messages a month between April, May, and September, and it's all arrow flight. That's why I did the arrow school. Like people are having trouble getting arrows to fly. Just fly. I'm not talking about broadheads yet. And there must not be much help out there.
Arrows wise, yeah, there's not a lot of good arrow information out there. There's really not.
Well, it's because everybody looks at the bow and thinks that fixes everything. And it's arrows there's a lot to them. I spent all my time with them, and it's just amazing that there isn't a better resource for that. Like I said, that's why I started my arrow school, and I'm going to upload that stuff. And I guarantee you I'm going to get in every video I say, if you have questions, please ask, and I'll make videos about it. I know
Yeah.
I missed 20 videos of stuff because I've done it forever. 25 years. I built all my own arrows for 25 years, woodies, everything, flint points when I was shooting trad. And I know I made videos and people are like, yeah, what about this? And I'm going to go, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? Something simple,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
All right. So before we let you go, shout people out where they can follow along with your stuff. You kind of were talking about it already, or anything we didn't mention that you'd like to say. I'll put link all your stuff in the description so people can just
no,
click
I
it.
appreciate that. So I got lucky with the dumbest name in archery. So you just type in Ranch Fairy and I'll come up. You'll see my goofy face and some damn pose of some crap. And I got a ton of videos on just all about around getting the arrow in the dirt. That's my whole thing. Get the arrow in the dirt, sharpening, arrow flight, penetration testing, all the energy testing, kinetic energy, downrange flight, the amount of speed loss of a heavier arrow versus a light one, that kind of stuff. So if you want to go into a deep dive on why arrows matter, because so just Ranch Fairy anything. I'm Ranch Fairy on Instagram. Please come follow me there. And of course I'm on YouTube. And I really want you to be successful. That's my goal. I want you to kill stuff. I'll do all of stupid math. Just go absorb the content and then go whack stuff. If I had one parting shot, I said this in the middle of the podcast somewhere. If I would go play at TAC, which I think is a cool event, it's great for our community to have a bow hunting thing. That's ridiculous how many people go to those things. It's hard to even get into them here in San Antonio. I would separate mentally a penetrator from a target arrow. You would get your reps, you'll get your form, you'll get to shoot far, you get to make fun of your friends, you get to break arrows. Super fun. And then build a set of penetrators. You're killing with one and you're screwing around and working on your form and becoming a better shot with the other. They are cohesive. Build a hunting platform. I would have 2 sights. I'd have a set of 550s, 600s, perfect tune, real broadheads on the front that are sharp. I would just flip the sight off and you're going hunting. And you won't know any different. Your sights are your sights. 30 still 30. If it's going 240, Still 30. He just gets there different. But all those reps practicing and all that is fantastic for when it's time to shoot, because you'll go to your training. You'll have all this form stuff figured out from shooting 95 yards, which is so much fun. I love shooting far. And then when the shit hits the fan and at 26, here comes the biggest deer of your life, all that form stuff, all that training will be spot on and you'll be nails. You'll just have a penetrator, not a archery arrow. Two different games.
Yeah. It's good to differentiate that.
I do want to pick y'all's brain
Yeah.
because I got a lot of questions when I was listening to y'all's going down to the ranch and I was supposed to kill a pig, but the stupid wind. I was like, I got to ask about that and this and that and this and that. So I
Well-
do want to pick y'all's brain about the bow tweaking
Yep.
stuff and all the indoor stuff y'all do.
100%.
And why on, I'll leave with this and we'll just leave it because we're going to do this. You're going to tell me why. Why on earth would a man shoot a longer bow indoors and a shorter, more tweaky bow outdoors? Let's just leave it at that.
Questions to be answered later.
Yes, that'll be answered later. Why would you shoot a 35-inch bow indoors and have to go to a 30 outside for hunting? I have my theories on this. I shoot a 34-inch actual bow. That is the most stable thing on the earth. But anyway, y'all go. Thank you very much for having me. Part 2, the Ranch Fairy learns about bows.
Thank
Been
you.
fun. Great questions.
Appreciate it.